Hello and welcome to the Startup Operator podcast. I'm Roshan Cariappa. At some point, we've all had an interesting idea or two for a consumer business. Maybe it was a snack that your grandmother made, or perhaps just another t-shirt store. Today, turning that idea into a company has become somewhat simple with the whole D2C or direct-to-consumer model coming of age. We have plug-and-play logistics, technology, and distribution that can help you get started in less than a weekend. But it wasn't so simple about 10 years ago when my guest on the podcast started his business. Sreejith Moolayil is the co-founder of True Elements, that is a clean label food brand, which is reinventing recipes for common things like dosa and cereal with healthy ingredients. I spoke to Sreejith about the founding story, the various pivots that they've had to make along the way, how they think about things like product, marketing, and distribution, and various facets of the business. This is a fantastic primer on how to operate a D2C model business. I hope you like it. Hey, Sreejith, welcome to the Startup Operator podcast, and thank you so much for making the time.
Hey, hi Roshan. Thanks for having me. Having following you over Twitter and listening to you our multiple podcasts. It's actually thanks for having me, because the League of Founders and investors you talk to, we are humble people. We are not reached that.
No. I think you're being very humble by saying that. Yeah. And True Elements has done some fantastic work, and it's a known brand also among people. So
brand. Brand. Yes, I agree. But we are not the founder circuit. So we are off the hook. So
right. Yeah. No, as we were discussing, I think it's been a while since, I've spoken to D2C founders on the podcast. We had Ganesh and Utkarsh, who were founders of Flatheads, way back when we started last year. And they've done really well afterwards. And so I'm quite looking forward to this chat.
Same here.
Yeah, maybe we can begin there. I think 2012, 2013, when you started, D2C itself wasn't a phenomena, right? It was, you had people who sold on e-commerce marketplaces and so on and so forth. And since then, you've sort of seen the evolution of how D2C has happened, right? A lot of things have come together on the technology side, logistics side, distribution side, that makes it easy for people. I would say relatively easy for people to just plug and play and start a brand these days. So I would love for you to take us back to those days of 2012, 2013 and how you've seen that evolution happen over the last decade or so.
Yeah, we would love to. For example, because when we started, there was no DTC. We knew only two stuff. We want to build a brand and we had to be closer to consumer in the health space. That's what we were clear about. Okay. We did multiple stuff in the startup world. We did multiple pivots. So first we were in-between meal kiosk inside corporates. Again, you can call it DTC. We were a retail chain, right? Health, snack and beverage retail chain in corporates. That was little early for the time, 2012, 2013. The ecosystem had not developed that much. So we were a little early. Then we wound that up and pivoted. And again, at that time, all the brands we were selling were third-party brands, aggregated from across India, tier 2, tier 3 city brands we aggregated and took it to people. That didn't go the way we thought it should have. And then we pivoted to a distribution company with those brands. Those brands didn't have a distribution presence, offline distribution presence. That's where we went next with those brands. That was where we had our biggest learnings, because offline distribution is not everybody's game. So we had our hard learnings with a lot of money being burned, all bootstrapped. That took another year of ours from our entrepreneurial life. From there, we had a bunch of brands which were tested, but we didn't know how to reach people the most economical way. And I myself, being an HR guy in my corporate life, I had good network of corporate. So we thought, let's do corporate wellness, whereby let's create awareness around health and give the consumers these products. Okay, that's when we moved to corporate wellness. Okay, idea was we were managing corporate wellness for corporates. There is huge business opportunity still untapped available there. But what we saw there was we didn't see that becoming a multi-million-dollar huge enterprise, because it had its challenges. Every year you need to renew the contract at a lower margin, and every year when an HR guy go from one corporate, you need to re-engage and renegotiate. So it's a tough business, but there is margin there. There's a good opportunity untapped yet. So from there we pivoted to a marketplace of health food, healthyworld.in. Okay, and that's where we probably reached close to what we call today DTC. We were a marketplace, but we were clear we will only sell healthy food. Okay, so if you look at the e-commerce evolution in India, at least in the food space, people were first buying stuff which were not comfortable going and asking in stores. They were selling, buying sexual wellness products. They were selling, buying protein supplements in these marketplaces. But we stuck to our core principle. We will not sell anything which is not within our principle. So we didn't sell those products. And it was bootstrapped. Running an e-commerce marketplace bootstrapped in 2014 to 16 is not the right thing to do. And that we learned it quite early. And that's where we started thinking about our own brand as a white label for our marketplace, and True Elements came into existence in 2016 and as a white label brand for our marketplace. And 17 is when we started treating True Elements as a separate baby and nourishing it and then running it again. So DTC again, e-commerce was our first place to go, because we did that for 2-3 years before that. And that also helped us in, because initial leg is bootstrap, so that also helped us in managing our working capital better. Okay, and what True Elements stand for is again an evolution of all these 3 attempts. Okay, so for example, we are the only brand probably in our league where we are not entered modern trade at all. Okay, because in our second leg of entrepreneurship, we learned in offline, if you enter a modern trade marketplace without the brand pull, without the demand pull, you will spend a lot of money. So we have not entered modern trade. We have gone the conventional general trade. Okay, or when we have a clear cut positioning in terms of what we will do, what our brand stands for, we are a clean label brand, and for that we have been recognized world over. We are the only brand in the clean tech space from Asia in the global 5 clean tech startups, right? So that focus helped, because we have in the food space for good, not close to 10 years right now. Though brand is 3.5 years old, but learning is good 10 years old as to what won't work. What we are currently learning is what might work. Okay, so amazing. We have a lot of learnings of what won't work. The last 4 years is what closer to what is little bit working. Right. That's in summary journey and the story of resilience of running. We have not raised much in comparison to the revenue run rate startup we consider our peers to be. That we have. Right. So that comes with a lot of opportunities and challenges, right? When you're out in let's say in Amazon, or when you are bidding for the same keyword in Google. Okay, when I'm the money I can spend or the CAC I can go behind is not in comparison with peers. Yeah, but we have managed a way to do that.
Right. Wonderful. I mean, it's really a story of perseverance, I should say, right? Because most people try to dip their toes in the water, and then, you know, if it's conducive enough, they just commit to it. But then, I mean, not a lot of them stay for the pivots and try to make this work across multiple years, right? And you've done it for 10 years. That's really fantastic. So along the way, I mean, you know, something you said was very interesting, which is that you realize that the marketplace one was not a multi-million-dollar business, or even the kiosk one for that matter, right? And so what was your motivations for starting a business? I mean, what do you have in mind when you said that, hey, I mean, let's start this business, right? And how big did you think it'll turn out to be? And because, I mean, it influences everything else, right? I mean, it influences the fact that, you know, you're bootstrapped versus, you know, what products you'll go after, what market you'll go after, how much you'll spend, for example, on your customers and acquiring them and so on, right? So yeah, I mean, I wonder if you could talk to us about your motivations.
So currently we are not bootstrapped. For True Elements, we have raised money, but earlier learnings of 3 pivots are all bootstrapped. Okay, now coming back to why did we start? So actually, so Puru and myself, my co-founder Puru and myself, shortlisted the health as an area, which was more driven by family. Puru lost his dad to a late stage cancer, and I lost my father-in-law for a lifestyle issue. So if you understand, and we both are related. Okay, so during when such instances happen in your family, health is the topic of all your meal tables, all your social gatherings. Health is the topic. So that's when this health and food. And we fundamentally, when we research, and again, I had a short stint in China. So what we realized, again, Chinese people eat the right food at the right time, cooked at the right way. We do all the 3 or ulta, right? Like, so what we realized is health is 80% food, and rest 20 is what fitness and all those kind of stuff. So what is it we can do at the 80%? That's where our food journey started. And then when we started, we didn't have anything called clean, what True Elements stands for today. It didn't exist, right? So, but that's a journey, and we realized that there's a huge potential of having a clean label packaged food, and that's how we reached here. But our space is same since, like for example, I'll just give you, for example, we have today we got one of our product became FMCG's food product of the year award, right? Chocolate granola. When you're developing that product, okay, chocolate taste comes from the cocoa fat which puts in it. I don't know whether you coming from that part of Karnataka where a lot of cocoa is grown, right? You would probably know that cocoa fat is what it gives you that taste. But we being a brand which started with health as a pedigree and we still believe in it, we cannot add cocoa fat, that's saturated fat. Then it's a tough journey to launch a cocoa based product without cocoa fat, right? So there are people who call us stupid for the tough calls we took. Like when we were doing an e-commerce marketplace, we didn't sell protein supplements, we didn't sell sexual wellness. If we would have done that, we could have probably done better in our e-commerce marketplace, right? But today there were investors who told us that you have taken a very high moral standard, that you will not add sugar, you will not add processed grain or seeds or chemical or anything, right? Or as simple as chocolate, we could have put just chocolate, we didn't, right? So can you sustain and build a huge brand with such high moral standard? I think we are proving them wrong. The journey we have had in last 4 years, we are proving them wrong. So probably we are a couple of months away from an 100 ARR monthly run rate. So we still continue to maintain those high standards, which are supposed to be a little tough to crack. But yeah. So the reason because of which we came into this business motivates us to go behind those.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And when you talk about clean food, when you talk about health and so on, right? I mean, there's a whole gamut of things. There's things across the spectrum, right? How do you iterate and validate your product niche? I mean, your niche is breakfast and snacks. Yeah. The 9 a.m. and the 5 p.m. is correct, what you go after, right? So how
we call it 8, 11, 5. So
8, 11, 5.
11 o'clock, 5 o'clock, anything which can be consumed in these 3 time occasions is what we
right. So how do you identify that niche and how do you validate it?
So for us, any packaged food currently out there is an opportunity. Okay. Now, for example, when we look at our families, whenever a person talks about food, don't take outside food or don't take packaged food. Packaged food is a villain. Why it should be like that, right? For example, we have a complete clarity when we have a home cooked meal as to what did the raw material look like before cooking. What did we do with that raw material? So we know that. Can we give that information for each packaged food? One. Second, can we also not tinker too much with the raw materials in the packaged food? So any packaged food is an opportunity. Then we keep looking for example, let me just give you a product which we recently launched, being South Indian and human dosa, right? Dosa is a staple food across at least right. South and it's becoming an across India breakfast food, right? Now, fresh dosa is the cleanest, right? We paste it at home and then fresh. But when you look at an instant dosa, let's say a dosa which is consumed occasionally, a household where you don't eat dosa every day, you don't make a batter, or you don't make, let's say you don't buy an ID, because ID batter, if you buy that packet, you need to consume and finish it in 2 days. But if you are a household where you don't have dosa or idli every day, the only option available out there is a powder which is mixed with water, and you make dosa out of it. But that powder, for a common person, it's a healthy dosa, but it isn't, right? To make that dosa instant, they add vegetable fat in it. To make the dosa, let's say, give you that fluffy feeling, they add baking powder in it. Okay, those are no-go areas for us as a brand. Vegetable fat, saturated fat. Baking powder is a mix of monocalcium phosphate and sodium bicarbonate. It's a no-go for us. So we look at how do we remove these two and still give you the same fluffy dosa with that sizzling sound when you're putting it on tawa. That's an opportunity. We have cracked it, right? Ours is pure grains and mix and then seed, which gives you the same solution. Okay. Now, when we had that, why can't we use the same technology in a pancake? Pancake is actually not possible without baking soda, is what the world says. We have re-engineered it. Okay. So what we're trying to look at is, can we get any packaged food with convenience without any non-food in it? Whatever we put in it will be a food which you and I can relate, right? Ingredient will not be a chemistry laboratory kind of an ingredient. It will be pure play ingredient. It is food.
Right.
So that's actually huge. We are restricting ourselves in not going beyond this 811.5 because we can go anywhere, right? With that definition, we can go anywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Moolayil. You want to move fast? Sure. But without breaking things? Now that's a hard ask. The thing is, once you have some base of users and customers, you just cannot afford to risk quality. So how do the likes of Cred, Swiggy and Curefit, some of India's fastest growing startups, ship at lightning pace and delight their users and customers? Simple, they're working with Moolayil as a strategic quality partner. Moolayil is India's most talented and passionate community of testers. They've helped prevent thousands of bugs and regression issues. So as a CTO or a product owner, if you want to reduce tech debt, especially while you scale, do check out Moolayil.com. I've interviewed Moolayil's founder and CEO Pradeep on the podcast earlier, and we spoke about how startups can improve quality while scaling and things to that effect. You should definitely check it out. I'll link to it in the description below. Now back to your regular programming. So what is the process of reverse engineering some of these things? I mean, if I understand correctly, Puru, and you don't come from like a food processing or food science background, right? Yeah. So is it like, conventional jugaad that, we are...
It's not jugaad. It is not jugaad. For example, I'll tell you, so last 10 years, we have been in food, right? So when I come from a Fauji background, so in army, there is a saying, even if you tie a donkey in infantry, after some years, you will hit a rank, right? It is same thing. Well, we have been doing this for last 10 years in the food, right? And it's pure passion. And you know what are the boundary we have? We will not tinker too much. We want to fix this problem. So it is pure passion and reading, and we have been blessed with team members. The product development team which we have has been blessed. They also come with similar passion. And for example, this dosa and pancake is a challenge thrown to us by one of our mentors, that you cannot make an instant dosa or this one, because without baking powder you cannot make it, right? Yeah, but it took a year, but so it is pure passion. So we're not trained food technologists to get into this. But when you are not trained, you don't have limitation of thinking. You can go out and look at, you can call it jugaad or whatever. Right? So you don't have a restriction of thinking. You don't know, and you don't have that knowledge. So then you look rational thinking approach and then reach solution.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to have that first principles approach when you're trying to do anything innovative, right? Because then you're not weighed down by what is possible and what is not, and that's usually what I've seen. In fact, a lot of the healthcare entrepreneurs that I've had on the podcast, for example, don't have a medical background either, but they see that there's a problem, and they try to solve it through first principles. So your brand and your product, right? It's a bit of a pull and a push, I would say, right? Because while people consume dosa, I mean, how many of them are really looking for, healthy dosa, right? While people consume cereals, how many of them are looking for healthy cereals? Obviously, I mean, now there's a growing proportion of people who are looking for this specifically, right? So can you talk to us about, how consumer preferences and their discussions have changed over the last decade itself?
Yeah, so that's again, thanks for learning our first startup experiment where we tried creating a kiosk inside corporates, right? So amount of people who are actually looking for a healthy stuff, as of now, we're not even in any of our packaging. You will not see we calling out loud, we are a healthy, let's say healthy cereal, we are a healthy dosa. No, we want people to buy this for its taste, because what we learned in our first pivot or experiment days was Indians, we want food to be tasty. The amount of people who are looking to compromise taste for health is a very minuscule. We are not willing to go and chase those kind of consumers, but that's very minuscule. What we're trying to do is we are trying to get the tastiest product out to consumer, and after they taste it, can we, so when we keep talking, so when a person is consumed, let's say a breakfast cereal of ours, after consuming, if a hologram can be projected out of the pack and show that, what you had this. That's the moment of, once we achieve that, then that consumer is for ours, right? So what we're trying to do is, right now, we are not selling these products for the health quotient in it. We are selling, let's say, affordable, convenient, tasty options, which are completely healthy and to the T, right? But that we are making consumers realize only after they buy it. If you look at our back of pack, there is a small QR code, you scan it, we will give you the complete journey of each ingredient from farm. For example, from the current Rabi crop, once, let's say, no added sugar muesli is bought by a consumer, the jowar flakes inside that, the consumer can see when was it sowed in Satara and when was it harvested and what did we do with that, and at each stage what are the condition of that with image, which with the report we'll be able to show that, right? Why are we doing
Amazing.
it? Again, we are not doing it at the first pitch. First, you buy it for the taste, and we are not a premium brand, so we want to tasty product at the affordable price and convenience. So once these three is handled, then we'll talk about it.
Right. So I'm not necessarily, buying a healthy dosa. I'm buying just about the tastiest dosa available,
Yes.
when I'm looking for a True Elements product, essentially.
Yeah. You're not an ID consumer where you're having everyday dosa. You have dosa once in a week, twice a week. That means you need to have powder which can be rubber banded and kept in your shelf and take it as and when you want. As of now, there is no clean option available. We are bringing that clean option.
Right. And, to fulfill your brand promise also, you've gone to the extreme of integrating backwards all the way to, forming partnerships and associations with farmer produce organizations and so on, right? And sourcing it directly from them, truly in a farm to fork fashion. Can you talk to us about some of the nuances of doing that? What does it take to do that?
Yeah, so we've been wanting to do it for the last 2.5 years for two reasons. One, obviously we want to know the complete journey of the ingredient so that we can tell confidently to our consumer, yeah, we know how it was handled and it is the best possible way it's been handled and grown and processed, right? That's first. Okay. Second, as you are aware, that the amount of margin which the middlemen take away from the whole chain from farm to our factory is humongous, right? And obviously everybody has to make money, right? We need that ecosystem. But right now, it's not balanced. The farmers who are toiling for 4 months in hot sun are not getting their due, right? So we were solving both the problems through this by doing a contracting with farming. Actually, we want to do it farmers, but we could not get so many farmers with so much land holding. Okay, and it would have been a management headache. Like for example, if let's say we are right now contracted with 250 acres, right? Now 250 acres, we'll have to speak to, let's say, roughly in Maharashtra, Satara region where we are talking. Again, purely because it's the first time we are doing it and we don't want to travel too much. And we are based in Pune. So landholding, average landholding 2-3 acres, we need to speak to so many farmers to get that much mass land. To avoid that, we scouted for farming cooperative societies where farmers have come together and made the cooperative societies. So contracting is easy, communication is easy, engaging is easy. And that took 2 years to build the relationship, and then they need to trust us, right? For example, when we are telling that you grow this seed, we will take it at the time of harvesting and we will give you this rate. So they need to trust us. We are not a known name like a Tata's or those industrial houses who go and engage, right? So we have that challenge as well. So yeah, but now this first leg we have learned the initial trick. So probably in next, as of now, we are only going to current year we'll probably hit 10-15% of our requirement through this farm sourcing. In next 2-3 years, we want to bring it to roughly 50%, right? So it is not easy, but with tech, there are a lot of farm aggregatory tech startups which are helping us in connecting and reaching. That also helps us in reaching those farming cooperative societies. So, but the challenge right now is, so we have few employees who are coming from conventional food organizations, right? They treat that food companies are run with complete secrecy as to what your formulation is not told to consume to anybody. Your partner, who is your vendor, is not revealed outside, because everybody thinks that if you tell all those, somebody can bring a similar product in no time. Right? But we fundamentally believe in the current world, I don't think secrecy is no more a moat, right? Because, so I have put my formulation, how the product is out there in my website. When you do a farm to fork tracking, you will see the formulation, how much percentage of what we are putting, how we are processing. Now I am putting the farmer community's name and tag and everything. So there is this fear among the conventional food like entrepreneurs that aren't you revealing too much, right? So that is a change which we are trying to address both internally and externally. Excellent. That's a challenge and change you're trying to address.
Yeah. So that is also the ethos of your brand, right? I mean, I think when you say True Elements, I think you're really trying to pioneer a a difference in how we consume food.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I look at the market, pretty much everyone will say healthy, everyone will say naturally sourced, everyone will say all of these things. But how do you differentiate, True Elements as a brand? Have you thought about it specifically as, what you will do, what you will not do, and how does it aid your customer acquisition process? Because up until now, everything you've told me is that, it makes it very hard for you to actually put stuff together. It's complex, challenging and stuff. But what are the kind of rewards that you're seeing because of, the hard stances that you've taken?
So one thing, when we have a clear-cut purpose, or when everybody in the organization knows as to what is that we are every day fighting it for, like, so we are driven by, but the name stands for it, true, right? So every decision in the company is taken with that lens, right? Like, so that helps in bringing the organization together in one purpose, right? So end of the day, when it is, whether it is hiring, whether it is the way we do contract with our farming cooperative societies, whether the way in which we approve a raw material at force, everything is done with the true and transparency out there for consumer to see. Okay, so that solves the biggest problem of bringing everybody together under one purpose, and that also comes with huge challenges. Let me give you one challenge, which is a, for example, we use cranberries in our let's say in our breakfast cereal, in a couple of our snacks. The reason why we do cranberries, again, we used to do our desi kishmish, which is raisins earlier, but raisins is sulfur dipped, and if it is not sulfur dipped, the infestation in raisins becomes a problem for any packaged food manufacturer, and you need to add a lot of preservatives and chemicals, which we cannot. So we have still not cracked the way of adding raisins after managing it yet. So the easiest solution next available is cranberry. Okay, and we use cranberry in quite a few products of ours. But we are the only brand where you will see, when we write cranberry in the ingredients, we'll write cranberry, sunflower oil, and sugar, because cranberry always comes with these three, because cranberry is grown underwater. Okay, so and it always comes with three. We being a true brand, we write that out there. But then consumer comes and asks, boss, your cranberry has sugar while the other brand cranberry doesn't have sugar. But how do we go and tell that what other brand cranberry is grown in the US, and it is an underwater crop, and it always comes with sugar and sunflower oil, but others are not telling. So we have a challenge when we take such standard. But over a period of time, consumers have started realizing that it is not that these guys aren't telling, but we are right now not having the privilege of going out doing a lot of ATL and making consumers realize this is what we stand for. Okay, but anybody who experience our products and understand this, slowly we are winning them over for life, right? So that means a consumer who knows this is sold out, and if you go and read our reviews in Amazon, okay, that end of the day, when I have low days, right, I go and read the 5-star reviews in True Elements across all the marketplace, and that charge me like anything. Okay, so as long as we are winning those consumers every day, right? So I was just going to tweet sometime back one snapshot when I was doing Amazon Pie today, the conversion ratio vis-a-vis cost we are spending vis-a-vis category, right? So even in this tough times when there's so much money out there among D2C brands and everybody is spending money, we still have the best conversion at the lowest cost. Okay, that means that we have built that, or we are building that brand over a period of time. Consumers know how do we stand for. We are communicating that as of now only in the back of fact, not out there. We are doing a lot of social media, but answering your question one line, that's the only way we are making consumers know it. But brand building is where we are currently, since probably last year or so, we are putting our energy on, because first 2.5-3 years of our DTC journey has been purely on word of mouth and organic. Our marketing team under a marketing head just came in place in early 2021, right, in the current year. So right now, since 8-9 months is where we are doing a lot of stuff around branding. So that again will compound, and by probably a year and next year, we would see the fruit of that coming out.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. I guess the trick is to keep them coming back, right? And to make sure that, it becomes sort of a habit and a lifestyle. We
have 65% repeat in Amazon.
Amazing.
Okay. So I'll tell you, so we do this annual exercise. So we look at so there are consumers. So last year when we did the exercise, Puru and I realized there are consumers who buy more often than us as founders, True Elements. Like, for example, I buy once a month. There are consumers who bought in Amazon last year 20 times in last year. 20, 25 times, and it's not one or two consumers. We have hundreds of those consumers, right? So
Amazing.
they give us jealousy. They have bought more than you, right? So, so we need to have so many such fans out there who will obviously talk about us more often.
Right, right. And I feel like, engineering that word of mouth is really what will sustain any of these brands and businesses, right? So one of the things that we often hear about D2C brands is that it's very difficult to scale. I mean, you can get to a certain size in revenue, but beyond that, going from, let's say, 10 to 50 or 50 to 100 and beyond, right? 100, 500 crores and so on. It becomes very, very difficult because it's not a bits and bytes business. It's like a atoms and molecules business, right? I mean, you're actually moving physical things from one place to another, and there are various intricacies and challenges involved in that. So have you thought of those things? I mean, in terms of scale, like, what you will do at a certain particular scale and how you will automate things, or, how you will set yourself up at that particular scale?
So I think one thing which probably any entrepreneur who have had multiple attempts would realize is in consumer business you need to have the patience, right? You cannot go like, let's say you raise a few $1 million and you decide now tomorrow I'll go and be present in 25,000 stores. You might be able to be present in 25,000 stores, but offtake will not happen at that pace. And if you pump money to create that demand, you need to, and before the brand actually get registered in the mind of people, if you pump money into it, you will do it at a very high expense, right? That means first you need to have the patience, right? You need to, for example, again, so probably again another thing that we probably are the brand among this where we have probably in terms of revenue percentage from our own website is not the best, right? There are brands who are building, let's say there are consumer food brands who have got 50% of the revenue coming from their own website. That comes at which very, very high cost. That means I'll be fighting with an Amazon, an Instamart, Zepto, everybody in Google to get that consumer, right? And that will come at very high cost. And Amazon can do it because Amazon is acquiring the consumer not only for food, it's acquiring for 100 other stuff, right? So we fundamentally believe you should not go behind the trends which keeps evolving every 12 to 18 months, right? The current trend is your D2C business in your website has to be 50%. Who tells you that? Like it's upon you to decide, right? For example, we can build 50% revenue in our business, but it will come at a very high cost, right? And there is we believe consumers are not there forever, right? Every consumer will have lifetime value is not like lifetime of the consumer, right? We believe 18 months is a practical or we spend in a way that after 18 months this consumer might go away, right? So it's good that not everybody will go away, but if you look at that angle, you don't go and spend and acquire consumers as if there is no tomorrow, right? So fundamentally last year we are PAT positive at our annual revenue, right? So when you have the time and that's why another reason I told you that we're not entered modern trade. We are only there right now close to 10,000 general trade stores across tier 1 cities, right? So if you have the patience and don't go by the trends. Now suddenly there is this ratio which is the buzzword. Everybody want to become let's say 50 lakh to 1 crore, 1.5 crore a business in 12 to 18 months and be ratio ready, right? Yeah, there are founders who want to go that route, right? We didn't come, or we are not building for that route per se, right? We are building a brand and then we'll patiently build it, right? With unit economics in place, so that we're not worried about when is the next funding coming and otherwise you're going to struggle, right? We are not in that stress. Yeah, but obviously if you have more money, you'll be able to scale a little more faster, which is obviously we are not like content and with less hunger. No, we want to grow at least 150% every year, but not at the cost of burning a lot of money. So when you have that realistic expectation, then it is not difficult.
Right. I was going to ask you about, advice for building a sustainable D2C business, but I guess, you've already touched upon a few things on that front. Anything else that you would like to add? I mean, if there's someone who's listening out there, and incidentally, everyone has a few bright ideas, right? I mean, either you want to turn your mother's recipe into something that you can, package and sell, or, I mean, you see something that's missing and you want to do it, right? So for people like that who are listening to the podcast, what are some best ways to get started in the D2C business and what to keep in mind?
You set your pace. For example, everybody cannot be a Zepto, right? In 6 months, 1 year, you cannot be a $1 billion company. In DTC in India, let me not tell you it's not possible. I don't know how it's done. Okay, DTC in India. Okay, so if you are here to create a huge valuation business in 12 months, then probably there are businesses where you can do that, right? In this, if you want to do that, you have to spend a lot of money. That means you are not at freedom to make mistakes, right? Initially, you will have to make mistakes, and the price of that making mistakes can't be humongous that you get shit scared to come back and start again, right? So have that patience and give yourself at least 18 months before you hurry in. Okay, and initially, if you can have them, there are DTCs who are raising money from day zero, right? And when you are having that pressure from day zero, I don't know whether you'll be able to do so many mistakes which we could do, right? So we learned more, but that doesn't mean that there are billion-dollar companies made in 18 months. They are stupid. They are the smartest people, but everybody has their own course. So you decide what are you in it for, okay? And then if you are in a DTC conventional brand, okay, give yourself time, and food is sold on taste, okay? And every month, how much ever we boast of our brand, every month I have to make 40 and roughly 400,000 pizzas and ship it as of now, right? And every month I need to get those consumer homes. This product has to reach there, only then the revenue come in. It is not like a SaaS. It is not like you build a product and then that hockey stick comes in. It doesn't happen in consumer. It happens in consumer, but it happens at much late stage. For example, 100 crore revenues were hit by companies at 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. Now it is reached 4-5 years, right? So that patience is required. When you're starting DTC, have that patience. If not, then you need to be something completely different or choose some other space to start off if you don't have that patience.
Right. COVID changed things fundamentally for many different businesses, but more so for your business, right? I mean, I think right now digital is front and center, just in terms of whether small businesses, the way they operate, or even consumers, the way they order and they procure things and so on. So what were those fundamental changes that happened to your business as a result of COVID? And when you look at the future, what are some of the plans that you have in terms of new products or expansion and so on?
So digital adoption got a huge push thanks to COVID, right? For example, we being 75-80% of our revenue comes from the e-commerce digital world. It obviously helped us a lot thanks to COVID. People started buying online. One. Second, in our space, people started eating, or people started looking at what they eat more closely than before, thanks to COVID, right? Whether you call it immunity, whether you call it different trends, but more people started looking at what they were eating. In our case, when they are looking at what they were eating, they could see a lot of stuff. They could understand that is an opportunity for us. That is the reason we preponed and launched Farm to Fork in the midst of COVID last year, right? So COVID helped us acquire more consumers faster. And one big stuff which we saw is pre-COVID, we were purely a tier 1 city brand. Thanks to COVID, let's say a lot of Bangaloreans went to the worlds like Chikmagalur and Belgaum and Madurai and Salem, right? Suddenly, we saw demand from those places coming, mostly online. When the online demand started, their parent households where they went for work during lockdown, started getting exposed to a brand like ours, right? Which was not possible earlier. Okay. And when the demand started, you'll be surprised. We got a retail store inquiry from Asansol, right? We wouldn't have thought about reaching a retail store in Asansol if not for COVID, right? So that helped. Going to tier 2 and tier 3 city got huge energy boost thanks to COVID. So one in the market side, and second in the overall category side, we got a huge boost. And the products which we launched, which I spoke to you right now of dosa makes, or let's say we have right now launched a Pongal for Tamil Nadu. Okay, thanks to we need to go beyond Chennai. That means we need to have products for the Bharat, right? So our Indian, probably pre-COVID, we were a Western cereal. We were perceived to be a Western cereal brand, though we had many more products. Right now, we have one product for each state, right? We have one product for each state, and that is thanks to demand and new market which came into existence thanks to COVID.
Awesome. So this has been a fascinating conversation, Sreejith. I mean, there's plenty of things that I've learned about the whole D2C business itself. And before we leave you, any of your favorite books or podcasts that you would recommend?
So I'm not a structured learner. I go all over the place. Okay. So, but again, so I've for some reason I never got hooked onto fiction. Okay, the kind of reading I do is more business, startup, entrepreneurship, or around new age leadership principles and all those. And I follow. I mean, I know that I'm part of a CTQ compound which is run by one of
we had
Harish, right?
We had Harish and Ramanan on the podcast earlier.
Okay, so Harish and we work together in Cognizant. Okay, so I know Harish and so they helped us in structuring my reading, which was all over the place since last year. They have helped us in structuring a bit and there. So I don't have any favorite authors. I keep looking for recommendations thanks to Twitter and thanks to people like Harish who are like mostly for his readers. So that's the kind of reading. So purely in the startup world and in the food world. So the food obviously, but there are not many structured books around food, right? So that's more blogs and articles.
Cool.
So it's more what internet throws at me.
All right, Sreejith. Thank you so much again, and it was fun talking to you.
Same here, Roshan. Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, then don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite platform and share this episode with all of your fellow startup operators. Also, follow the Startup Operator on LinkedIn and Twitter for more updates. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon on a brand new episode of the Startup Operator.